Hey, welcome back, ball fans. It's been a couple of days since that disappointing performance um, up in Columbus. So we've gotten out of our throwing thing stage, I believe. Possibly wrong about that, but let's um, dive into a few things, Dave Bob. We won't really talk about the game itself that much. I believe everybody's watched that debacle about enough and everything, but we will talk about the season as a whole. Uh, good, the bad on that right there. But we'll talk into the transfer portal because we've got to get ready for next season.
Mm-hmm.
We may air a few Festivus grievances along the way, and let's see what Josh Heupel is looking under at Christmas tree, hoping to get.
Yeah.
So let's start off. The only thing I want to talk about the game, Bob, mostly is just your experience. Use one of those 40,000 or so, 30 to 40,000 Big Orange faithful that made the trek north to Columbus, and I know this is your first away game,
Right.
and there's not often you get to bring 40,000 of your closest friends with you
Right.
on something like that. So, how was your experience?
It was fantastic all the way up to kickoff. I mean, it was, couldn't ask for a better experience. So proud of the Ball Nation traveling like they did. How many was there? Who knows? It's so hard to gauge. Uh, but I would say somewhere between 30, 40,000, somewhere around that range. But so many there. Uh, a lot of people talking about it locally. Amazed by how many was there. Uh, it was overall, I mean, it almost give you chills hearing Rocky Top being
Son,
sung by the people in the stadium before the game. You know, that's pretty special to
yes,
have enough people there that you could hear Rocky Top throughout the stadium.
the Tennessee fan base is special. There's no arguing that. I mean, sometimes to a fault,
Yeah,
a few times, but I think we all know that. But uh, I don't see any other fan base doing what we did.
no, it is special. I
So,
mean, and you know, should be proud of that.
yeah,
Whether you win or not, you should be proud of the UT fan base for doing that.
yeah. The fans made the trip, whether the team ever got off the bus or not.
Right,
We could argue about that part, but
right.
uh, Bob, let's look at the overall season. Let's dive back if you can recall your preseason expectations, and of course they may not be fair expectations; they seldom are.
Right.
But would you say this has been a successful season, non-successful? We going up? We going down? What's your feeling on that?
Successful season. I predicted 10-2, I believe, at the beginning of the year. That was what I was thinking most of the time. It fluctuated from time to time, but felt like 10-2 was where we were at, and I thought we would probably make the playoffs, but it would be very close. And that's basically what happened. So I would say, you know, good season.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a successful season.
I will say defense was probably about what I thought, maybe a little better, and offense was not.
Yeah,
So we're going to talk quite a bit about the offense.
yeah, we will. And I would say that the special teams took a little step back, particularly on coverage
Yeah,
units.
I agree with that.
First three seasons, those coverage units is as good as I've ever seen. And this year, that wasn't the case. But obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about that defense and the offense here in just a moment.
Right.
But I agree. I believe it's a successful season. You look back where we were just 4 years ago, not just under NCAA cloud, but under an avalanche of allegations.
Right.
Unlike pretty much it had been seen, we were squarely in the eyes, and it really affected our recruiting to a degree, particularly at certain spots like offensive line. We're still paying for that today. And 3-7 season, a decade or better of mediocrity at best. And then, Apple's come in here. I think we've won about 30 games the last three seasons. There's not many teams in the country can say that in the toughest conference in America.
Right.
Um, so I believe it's a successful season because by making the playoffs after the two seasons prior to that, it has firmly established Tennessee as somebody.
Yeah. I would have felt much better about it had we had a competitive game against Ohio State. I think most fans would have felt that way. Uh, I think it puts a little damper.
It's a bitter pill.
Yeah, getting just smashed like that. Um, you know, it is. It is a bitter pill. But uh, so, do we talk about the portal some now, Tim? I mean, is that what we want to talk about?
Well, we can talk about Portal a little bit, and then we might air a few
Yeah,
Festivus grievances afterwards,
absolutely. Let's do.
if you want to.
Well, let's give an update on who's out, who's gone in the portal. And, several of these already been out. You may know these. Some are recent. But Jalen Smith, Jordan Matthews, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, I'm sorry, Cam Selden, Khalifa Keith, Faisal Lang, Christian Harrison, which, started some at Nickelback,
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Leacock, and Jason Jenkins, which did get quite a bit of playing time there at strong side defensive
Yeah,
end.
make some plays for us this season.
Yeah. Several, good ball players. I didn't really want to lose Leacock personally. Selden, I think, could have had star potential eventually here. Uh,
Yeah, there's several people on that list I'd like to have kept.
yeah,
That said, there'll be a few more on there. Probably by the time this comes out, there'll be one or two more on that list. I expect
yeah.
another well, half dozen, but there's going to be several more.
I would say, listening to Austin Price, it makes it sound like maybe we may have 3, 4 more out there. So hopefully, and basically they were saying that nobody's off the table. So, who knows? Let's just hope it's somebody we don't want to really lose.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have some leave because had a pretty good sized recruiting class out of high school, and they didn't go to 125 roster limit. Um, and we're going to have to attack some people in the portal.
Well,
And I think that's where we go to next.
right. Speaking of the portal, we've got one guy in, Wendell Moy. Uh,
I love that pickup, by the way.
yeah, very good guard. And we knew we needed probably at least one interior offensive lineman, probably two. And after the whole Ohio State game,
Probably seven.
yeah, I'm thinking we need at least two. Uh, so uh, we're still looking pretty good for Josh Thompson. I'm sorry, the offensive guard out of Northwestern, which would be a pretty massive pickup if we can get him. You take both those guys.
We've upgraded.
We've upgraded our interior offensive line.
Yeah. Because, look, I love Sprague to death. I'm glad he was a Tennessee ball.
Yeah.
He's never been a good pass protector.
Right.
And as much pressure as Nico gets on him most of the time, you need to upgrade at all five positions across that back there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mays is pretty good, but he struggles with large men, and our tackles are definitely got to get better. I assume Hurd will get better just from being in the system another year,
right,
being a year older, but he was a disappointment this year.
Right, I agree. I think he will.
And Sanders, or one of the multiple tackle prospects already on campus, will hopefully have be ready by next fall.
Right. What else do we look at, Kel?
Well, I think we've lost 4 wide receivers. I can't see us not targeting a wide receiver at some point in the portal.
I agree, and I think we've done a lot of bargain shopping in the portal, and some of it's worked out for us. And overall, I think every year we may even talk about that later at another point. With one of my favorite videos each year we do is, did we win the portal? And the last 2 years, I think we have, but we're going to do a deeper dive into that. Now that with the season's over with, we have a better understanding of.
I know already. I think we've lost more in the portal this year than we have the last 2 years.
I agree. So, will we win this one? Time will tell. But I think we need to go after instead of doing some bargain hunting, I think we need to not do some hunting for a wide receiver. We need some separation.
Well, there's a lot of them in the portal, so there's some out there to
Right.
get. Um, Seems like a lot of the really top players, though, never truly go into the portal.
Yeah.
A team tampers before they ever get into the portal.
Yeah.
They get them into the portal, and then they sign 2 days later.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we haven't put out fillers here and there. I'm not going to be like that kind of guy that says it's never happened. But I will say, just from looks of when these guys sign after they come out, it doesn't appear that we've done much of that. Uh,
No, I agree with that.
we might need to join into that group that does a little bit more of it. But that said, Bob, I think we are also, we've had 2 defensive tackles visit us. I don't think we got a lot of traction with either one. But I'll say I'll be shocked if we don't get 1 to 2 defensive tackles out of the portal.
I agree. I think we get at least one, and would not be shocked at 2, just because we really like a big rotation there. Now on the plus side there, uh, it looks like Bryson Eason is coming back. Not for sure, but Austin Price again seems to think he will be back. He also thinks that Dominic Bailey will be back. So there's 2 guys who could have been gone. He thinks both will be back. So that helps that defensive line some.
We won't have as good as depth next year, but our starting defensive line, second team unit, will still be very good.
Yeah, we just won't have a great third string.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
So got to feel good there.
Do we get a linebacker? That's iffy, I think. Do we get a safety? I think we get a safety.
I think we need to get a safety.
I think we need a safety. I think we need and that's another one. Not sure if we need a bargain hunt on that one. I think we need a good safety because they can bring us this defense another level. And I wouldn't think we'd get another corner, but it does seem like
We're
are
lower numbers there, so
we are low in numbers.
we could get a guy that's got a few years left.
Yeah, I would not be shocked if we do a little bargain hunting at the corner spot.
Well, look, let's face it. You say bargain hunt a lot, but the reality of it is a lot of your NIL money goes to keeping people on your roster.
Right.
Which last year we let a lot of defensive back go because we're like, we can use this NIL elsewhere.
Right.
And we were not going to list, we're not going to give you more. You're mediocre.
Right.
That might be why we have maybe getting a few more into the portal this year. Maybe we're not meeting demands.
True. I mean, a lot of these guys right here is probably wanting more money, and that
Their play is not to this point.
Right.
Is not met what they're probably asking.
Right.
Yeah. So we may be spending a lot on NIL portal wise. Unfortunately, we don't see much of it because it's to keep guys.
Right.
But I think if you look at our NIL, where we do spend the money at, defensive backs generally are not the spot our collective and our coaching staff prioritized.
Right.
But now that said, I think you've got to do something at safety. We've struck out, seems like pretty much 4 years at that spot. So offensively, Bob, I don't see nothing at tight end really coming this way. Kitzelman's even possibly coming back. So,
Right.
But whether he does or not, I don't see adding somebody in the portal there.
I agree.
We've lost a few running backs, but I think that's iffy also whether or not we attempt to pick up a running back.
I agree.
But overall in the portal, as far as the acquiring parts, we're still very early in the process for us.
We're kind of slow in that process.
We have been very slow because it ain't just sometimes the offers, it's the culture.
Yeah.
Heupel's the first coach I've ever heard holler the culture word that I actually thought meant it.
Yeah.
I heard every single one of them talk about culture.
Yeah.
And I thought every one of them was just, coach speak. And because you can see it on the rosters. Well, if you're talking culture, I don't understand why you have these 17 guys right here that seems to be locker room issues. Heupel has seemed to stay away from people we could have gotten that were probably better.
Yeah.
That's why I would never, if we were able to get rid of our defensive coordinator, like had someone texted me this week about getting rid of Banks. He wanted to go Muschamp. I could see maybe, eventually you may get rid of Banks, but I don't think uh, Muschamp would be even a candidate, not due to the ability, but due to the culture aspect of it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Bob, I guess at this point, that'd be a pretty good spot to mention our Festivus grievances
Yeah.
For the year, not just that game, because we don't have we go through every single person and coach on the roster.
Yeah.
Um, Next year, what this year? Do you have your Festivus grievances for? You want to start it?
Well, you know, first of all, let me just say defense overall played well. Um, Most of my grievances is on the offensive side, mostly. Um, I think if this program's going to take that next step, and this program we can be very good again next year. We can be right here in this playoff again next year.
I expect to be.
Uh, Defense, I think, will be again very good. Uh, Offense is needs to get better. Josh Heupel is the leader of that. Uh, Now we could talk, you know, to 100 people here, and I'm gonna say we're not going to get nowhere near a majority on what needs to be fixed. Is it offensive lineman? Is it wide receiver? Is it quarterback? Is it coordinator? Is it, what is it?
Quite honestly, I think the reason you wouldn't get consensus is simply because it might be a little bit of all of it.
Could be.
We've not pass protected well at all.
No.
Really, for 4 years, we've not pass protected very well.
Right. I agree.
But Ellerby is Heupel's work wife, and whether you like him or hate him or think he's a great developer or whatever your attitude is on Ellerby is, um, I don't see Heupel filing for divorce from Glenn.
Yeah, I agree. I would be surprised.
Uh, Coaching staff wise, let's go with coaching staff real quick. I just want to say we thought we had a star in Pope,
Right.
but for the last 2 years, he's recruited well, but has there been a position group that's been farther away from expectations than wide receivers?
And you know what, Tim? You're right about that, and that brings up something else. Something else that a lot of people won't agree with me on, but this is my opinion that I think teams have figured us out, and I think that's a lot of our problems on offense. That's the reason why our entire offense looks bad all of a sudden. Uh,
Well, we have not figured out an effective counterpunch.
yeah,
That 12 personnel, did it help against these 3-3 defenses that we were seeing some of and the three deep safety looks we were looking at? Help? Yes. Did it fix it? No,
no, dude.
it has not.
We've Heupel and Halsey has to come up with something in off season to counter that. Is it doing some stuff, where we don't have wide splits? Is it, they got to come up with something that's a counter to that in the off season. Otherwise, I feel like we will go back even further. But uh, again, this talent's there. I think you got Nico, but Nico's got to play better. Offensive line's got to play better. Wide receivers got to play better. Coaches got to do better.
Yeah, Halsey is not uh, making himself. Let's put it like this: no one's running to Halsey right now to say, "Hey, will you come be our coach?"
No, nobody's. Yeah. So do we need to get rid of a coach, or is it, in my opinion, we probably need to bring in some fresh blood?
Well, next year gives us an opportunity at that we don't normally have. NCAA has changed rules that more coaches can actually be on the field coaches, which a rule that's probably been ignored for by a lot of schools for a long time.
I mean, Bama's had coaches all over the place and just ignored that rule and somehow.
Well, they totally ignored it, and the NCAA ignored it also.
They did.
And eventually, I think the other teams started ignoring it to a degree.
Yeah.
That's why they changed the rule, because it's like nobody's paying attention to it.
Yeah.
But this gives you an opportunity too, though, because we can actually open up what we're paying these guys.
True.
So, we've had like 3 or 4 guys helping out on our offensive line for the last couple of years. but maybe now you can go get the existing coach at a Kennesaw State or a Middle Tennessee or, or a lower level and bringing them in as an assistant to Ellaby, um, or to Pope or whoever the coaches may be. So we have an opportunity. Unfortunately, everybody else does too. So we're going to have to fight for these guys. Just giving the guys on your coaching staff, analysts more money and say, look here, we're paying more money for it now, but well, results are the same. So let's look outside. We need some ideals, some fresh
Yeah,
ideals.
I think we need some fresh blood there somewhere along the way, however you need to do it. Because you do have some offensive issues, and I'm not 100% sure who we have on staff currently can fix all of those issues. So whatever we need to do to fix it, and some things will get better. I mean, Nico, a year older,
It's going to be better.
it's going to be better,
Mhm.
but he needs more time. Wide receivers need to get open more, and is that wide receivers? Is that coaches not getting those wide receivers in the right place or not coaching them up well enough? I mean, who knows? That one's really hard.
Well, to me, I think if you got to get these teams out of that three, if you want to stay with his base offense, you're going to get the teams out of three deep. And this year we tried it with the tight ends,
Yeah.
and with limited success. Uh, what about the tailbacks? Throw to them some.
Yeah.
There are gaps in the defense. Get those running backs there. Do something. Um, it's, but for whatever reason, Josh has, like every other coach, there's certain things he loves about his offense, and every coach I've ever seen really, um, there's gaps in their schemes that they think, well, I'll live with this gap. Well, maybe you need to do something about filling that gap in. Maybe it can help.
Right.
But that said, Bob, let's look at defense.
And one more thing I'll say
Okay,
real
go
quick.
right ahead.
Maybe if we can improve our offensive line some, maybe the passes to the running backs and to the tight ends become, more prevalent, because a lot of times these guys are staying in to pass protect. If we can upgrade our offensive line a little bit, maybe those backs can go out for a swing pass instead of staying in all the time.
Huh?
You know,
Can't deny that. Our pass protection was bad. We run block better than we pass block.
right.
I certainly do.
Just hopefully it'll improve. I do think our defense will be better, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Tim.
Defensively, um, we looked lost at times the latter half of the year once Peely went out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? He's not coming back.
Right.
So, uh, a lot is on Inge to get these newcomers ready.
Right.
Talented group out of high school ranks coming in. And, our great high school recruit this year got hurt. Um, Spielman.
Would
And
not be shocked if he is not a starter next year. I
Yeah.
think he will.
I think he played about 25 snaps just the other night.
I think he's a starter for you next year.
Yeah.
Somebody in one of the
When he's been healthy, he's got onto the field.
Yeah.
I think maybe him and Carter in the middle, to be honest about it, would be two really upper level athletes.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, we got to uh, improve at safety for next season. And well, as much as we like to uh, give accolades to our defensive line, there was a couple of times this year they pitched, they got shut out against two biggest games of the year. Georgia and Ohio State made our defensive line look average.
Yeah.
Now, uh, how much is that on the line? How much is that on scheme? Could we bring pressure other places to help them out?
Right.
Um, I consider that a part coaching, and then part some players. I mean, like Pierce did not have the season that anyone thought he would.
No, I agree.
He's cost himself some money this year. Now, a lot of early on was going a whole year. Did he ever get called for an offensive lineman? Ever get called for a hold? Maybe once. Ridiculous.
Yeah. That was.
But with that said, he needed to do more.
Yeah.
And every guy returning needs to do more.
Yeah. Great.
But Bob, I believe that's pretty much a recap and a look ahead.
Yeah.
Next season. I know we've got a lot to do. We'll look into each individual things in some upcoming videos.
Yeah.
Talk more
We got
recap.
quite a bit coming up here. You know, going a little some more portal recap stuff and did we win the portal kind of thing. We might do another video on that.
Oh, we will.
That's coming up. And you know, and that's before we get off this video, I just want to say, had a great year. I don't want to sound too negative. Had a great
No,
year.
no, I had a great year.
Basketball team's #1. Just won a national championship in baseball. So,
Yeah. Lady Balls are wiring it out.
well, yeah, looks to be much improved. So still, even though it's, you know,
It was a bitter pill against Ohio State.
right. So,
You know, puts a little damper on everything, but still the best athletic department in the country right now.
it is.
And nothing's slowing down the Big Orange Nation at this point.
That's right.
That said, go Big Orange. Let's keep it rolling.
All right. Go Vols.